Alrighty guys, welcome back to Coachin and Cars. I'm your coach Ren. We are getting ready to head out today. We're going to go meet Jordan Floyd. He is the owner, founder, president, CEO of a Limitless brand here in town. What they do is physical therapy. They also do some wellness things, and they do some women's health things as well. So we're going to go pick him up today. It's going to be a great interview. He's got a really cool story. He's super approachable, and he's a lot of fun to talk to. So it's going to be a good one, so stay tuned today. All right, so why don't you just go ahead and introduce who you are, what do you do, like what business do you own? We'll start there and then we'll kind of just go from there.
Yep, so I am Jordan Floyd. I own several Limitless brands. So Limitless Therapy and Wellness was my first business. Then we launched a pelvic health brand and a fit brand within the last 4 or 5 years. And yeah, so we have 3 locations across the upstate, 2 in Greenville, 1 in Spartanburg. So we are a team of 6 physical therapists and 2 personal trainers now. And yeah, we're, I guess, kind of the part of the market that we fall in is we specifically focus on, I'd say 3 groups of people. It would be, you know, adolescent and like high school, college age athletes, active adults, and then specifically on our pelvic health side of our business, primarily women, with some men with pelvic health problems. That could be pregnancy, postpartum, postmenopausal, post-cancer, those types of things.
Yep.
So do a little bit of everything in the PT world.
Okay. You went to school for it. I know that you went to school for it. Yep. But what made you say, I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to work for another PT company. I'm going to start my own thing. And what did that journey look like to start it?
Yeah, so I did work for somebody else for a while. Yeah, so after I got my doctorate, you can choose to do a residency or not. I chose to try to get some more mentorship and training. And so after I did that, it's another 13 months. And then after that, just got offered the opportunity to come on with the big hospital system here in Greenville, doing their outpatient stuff. Got to actually go through a merger and get to see what that process was like too. And you know, it was basically like, after a while, it's like nothing's the same other than the people that I'm working with. Everything has kind of changed. So I'd say that was kind of part of it, but I'd say the other piece was I honestly had a patient that, you know, had a very honest conversation with me one day, and they were just like, you know, you could do a lot better. And if it was just you and you didn't have to worry about all this other red tape and corporate hullabaloo, you could totally do this. And then she even looked at me, she's like, and I'll be your first client. And I was just like, okay. Maybe that's the kick in the pants I need. So actually, when I finally made the jump was when my wife and I had our first biological daughter. This would have been 2019. And I just remember like sitting at home over those. I took 2 weeks off to be home with my wife, and that was, you got a lot of time to think during that time. And during that time, that same patient was like, hey, why don't you just come see me since you're not working? Why don't you just come see me at the house a couple times? And that turned into, hey, I'm going to tell my neighbors and my friends about what you're doing. And before I knew it, I kind of had a side hustle on top of a real job. And so then it was a little bit easier for me to make the decision to go, hey, I didn't even try to grow this thing, and it just is. And so now what would happen if I actually put my time, effort, and energy into it? So it was kind of cool.
Had you thought about starting a business before she had approached you, and it was just like that was the straw that broke the camel's back? Or had you really like not really thought of it, and then she just spurred that thought into your head and you ran with it?
I definitely thought about it, but to be honest, you know, a lot of limiting beliefs out there, thinking how in the world am I going to accomplish something like that? And I'd say like healthcare in particular, like healthcare is all about like consolidation and getting gobbled up, right? Like you look and you see the biggest buildings in just about any city or healthcare buildings. I mean, like these companies are what they are for a reason. It is difficult to compete with them. And so I think that was a lot of like the mental blocks that I had was like, yeah, I think it would be awesome to work for myself, but how in the world am I going to be able to get patients and be able to make ends meet when there's these big corporate giants that are essentially your quote unquote competition, which is something that I've learned over the last 5 years. They're not my competition at all, but that was kind of what was holding me back. I guess I had the itch, but I didn't feel like I had the resources and the tools to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, it's funny what fear over faith can actually do in your head. Like the fear of whatever it is turns into you telling yourself all of these stories that actually aren't true, but you tell yourself those stories so many times that you believe that they are.
100%.
And it really limits a lot of people's potential out there. So I think it's super cool that you recognize that early. We've talked a couple times. I met you at a networking group. What really interested, and you spoke at that group, what really interested me about you is you're really like putting a spin on
healthcare and the physical therapy world on how you approach it with clients and your customers. What makes you guys so unique compared to the one right down the street?
Yeah, good question. I think there's certainly like some structural and mechanical things about our business that are different, but everybody would like to say that the client experience is what kind of makes it different for them. And so I'd say for us, at the heart of everything that we do, and I think something that I talked about that day that you were at that networking meeting, is that for me, it was almost like going back to the basics. Say, if I could start with a blank slate, an empty sandbox, and go, how do we build this in a way that actually gives a person the best chance to be successful and have the best experience along the way? And I got to experience that personally with my mom going through having a knee replacement back in 2016. So this was while I was still in kind of corporate healthcare. And I think that was the first eye-opening moment of, I didn't love how that experience went for my mom. It wasn't terrible, but it was just like, man, I'm a physical therapist. I should be able to just like grab the reins here and do it the way I want to, and yet I can't in this environment. And it's like, well, hold on, why do we need all this extra red tape and barriers and hoops for people to jump through, and restrictions that we're going to put on people, and I guess essentially like artificial endpoints to say, well, I guess that's good enough, so you're done now, kind of thing. All those things were just like, this doesn't make any sense. And so I said, if I'm going to start my own business, what we need to do is we need to say, what do we want this experience to look like? And we need to treat this person as if they are my mom, my wife, whoever that most important person in the world is to somebody. Because chances are, whoever that person is that's in front of me is the most important person in somebody's world, right? And so they deserve to be treated that same way. And so everything from our intake process to our evaluation process to what actual plan of care looks like for us to what does it look like when you're done with us? What does that finish line actually look like? Or what does continuity and accountability and structure look like beyond kind of the end goals of what traditional physical therapy would look like? I think all of that is very different because we have that process in mind. And something that I know you and I have talked about before, one of the reasons that's the case is because the client's actually our customer. In healthcare, the client, in big corporate healthcare, the client's not the customer. The insurance company is the customer, right? And so you're basically going, what is the customer going to pay me to do? And I'm just only going to do those things. Because I'm not going to do something I'm not going to get paid to do. And that's where the bottleneck, I think, happens a lot of time in big corporate healthcare. Whereas for us, we can go, hey, we can design an experience from the ground up and know that clients that see value in that are more than willing to invest in themselves if they know the experience is going to be worthwhile. So.
Well, it's just, in my world, we talk about like a purpose-driven person and a purpose-driven business. And like it's really cool how your experience with your mom created your purpose as a company and as a brand and what you go out and promote and how you get clients and customers. But the other cool thing is that's always in the back of your head. So when 100%. You recruit people to come work for you, you can say, this is the experience that I had in healthcare. This is what I'm trying to create. And if you're not wanting to be a part of that, then you might not be the right person for me, and you might not fit in my culture. And you've built this really like tight-knit culture. I mean, I sat down in your office before we met today, and there's only 3 people in the office, and all 3 of them came over and shook my hand and introduced themselves with a smile and said, this is who I am and this is what I do here. And I thought it's really cool because they could have just walked past me. But it's a culture thing, and I think you're a purpose-driven business and a purpose-driven person. And that's what you've been able to create.
I try not to be overly cliche, but I do try to give all of my employees kind of a framework to think about everything that we do. And so, I've already said one of them, which is the like, essentially, how would you want that most important person in your life to be treated? But there's sometimes still where like, that doesn't always necessarily jive with, in your mind, what might be financially best for the business or something like that. And so I draw a pretty hard line and I just say, what's best for our client is what's best for our business. That never has to come into conflict. We play the long game with this. Our goal is not to say, hey, here's this person that's in front of us. How much juice can I squeeze out of this person before they walk out the door? Instead, I say, like, how can I treat this person in a way that they've never been treated anywhere else, to where whether now is the right time for them to do business with us, or whether that opportunity might come years down the road, we've still left such a positive impression on them that none of that effort was wasted. You know what I'm saying?
And that opportunity may not come back in the form of that person, but in form of somebody else who had the experience with you that says, hey, you got to go here because there's no better place on the planet than Jordan and his team.
That's exactly right. So we've definitely tried to create that.
So I know, you know what I do. I go out and I coach businesses. I help businesses that are growing and scaling and all of those things. I help them execute on vision, strategy, and plan for their business. So
Yep.
I know that you've worked with mentors and coaches and people like that in the past. So tell me, what has your experience been like with that, and where do you think you would have been had you not taken those steps?
Oh gosh, it's been critically important. I would say we already talked about some of the limiting thoughts and beliefs that I had coming into starting a business. And then once you actually get into it and you realize it's like way more than you could have ever imagined in terms of like what you bit off, you're struggling enough just to like keep things afloat or moving forward in the moment. I think for me, what was most beneficial was having someone who could not just diagnose the problem or the challenges of the moment, but to be able to look 3, 6, 12 months into the future and say, here's where you're headed, and here's what you need to be prepared for to be successful then, so that you weren't just feeling like you were constantly using a fire extinguisher to put out these fires, captive of the moment. You were like, hey, recognize that the challenges of today are going to be small and insignificant compared to the challenges of tomorrow. So yeah, let's conquer those, but let's not just continue to do the same things that you're doing right now, which is creating those same problems.
Yeah.
How do you develop systems, structures, processes, procedures, all these things to make sure that you're equipped to be able to grow to the next level? And what does that even look like? I'll just be honest and say, when I first started, in my mind, I'll be honest, I never envisioned growing beyond just me.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, I was just like, this is scratching the edge. This is awesome. And for somebody to go, hey, so here's the deal. When it's just you, at some point, you're going to get so maxed out that experience that you say you care so much about is going to start to slip.
Yep.
And now what? What are you going to do? Because one person can only juggle so much. You can only return so many people's phone calls within 24 hours. Yeah. You can only get so many people in within a week, and now all of a sudden you're having to make people wait 3 or 4 weeks to be able to get in with you. And yada yada. I was like, you're right. Yeah, I can't do that. So I guess I do need to start thinking about that before I'm booked out 12 weeks. I need to think about that now. And so, yeah, amongst other things, I think that was extremely valuable for me, was somebody who just had that forward focus lens to go, hey, yeah, you know what, you might think that's the problem now, but let me tell you what the problems are that are ahead, and here's what we need to do to solve those problems. They haven't even happened yet, but that way you're prepared when they do come out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the value of, yes, having a coach or a mentor, but also just surrounding yourself with people that have had success at a different level than you have, right?
Yeah.
Just to be able to, whether it is through a direct conversation or even just through observation about how they handle certain things, that's been extremely helpful for me too. I find that I don't like being the biggest fish in the room. To me that is not necessarily an unsettling feeling, but it feels like growth or any kind of forward momentum stalls really quickly when you don't have anything to look towards or strive for. And not to say that everybody else in the room has it figured out either.
Yeah.
But I just think that's a huge value of having someone, whether they're serving in an official coaching or mentoring capacity, or whether it's just somebody that has been successful. It's like, man, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's people that have been successful for a reason, and it's because they probably failed enough times to figure out the right way to do it.
So like Coach K, I don't know if you're a basketball guy.
I actually love Duke basketball.
Okay.
I went to their camps growing up. So.
Oh, perfect. There you go. I went to Creighton basketball camp, which is not nearly as prestigious as Duke. But Coach K, he just released a masterclass about being coached and learning at his age and his prestige, still learning how to be a good manager and a good leader. And it's just funny because you said somebody that has been there and has the success, that is very important. But sometimes also the most valuable thing is just somebody that has a different perspective or just a different angle to look at something where you're like, man, I really just didn't even think about that. It can be somebody that has never operated in your lane, in your industry, even been a business owner, like your lady that said, hey, have you ever thought about doing this on your own? Just that altered perspective for her to say I'll be your first client, that just changed your entire future. It changed your life.
Correct. It did.
Just one question. Sometimes it's just somebody's different perspective that can really help you grow and change. And a lot of times that has to be somebody that's disconnected from the business because you're just so in it most of the time where you miss things. You just have blind spots. Right. Everybody does. So.
Well, and you don't want to find yourself in that echo chamber either, where whoever it is that you're surrounding yourself with, all they're doing is patting you on the back and telling you how great you are. And you know what? I agree. You just need to keep pushing forward on all those things you're already doing. I think it's actually good to potentially have some people that every now and then they say something and you go, I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Sometimes we need to be nudged a little bit, and then we can sit there and we go, but hold on. This is coming from a place of wanting to help me, not hurt me. And so maybe I do need to take a little different look or different perspective, because like you said, I'm so neck deep in it, I can't actually see that far ahead, or I can't see it from the perspective of somebody else. I just think this is the way I want it to be. Well, what if it's not the way somebody else as a consumer or a customer would want it to be.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's extremely helpful.
So what's the future look like for you in terms of, let's talk the future for Limitless and what the organization itself looks like, and then the second part of that question is, what does Jordan Floyd's future look like, and what are you trying to accomplish like in the next 5 years?
5 years, okay, cool. I'll be honest and say, you'll ask me this today and you ask me a year from now, and of course the answer can be different, right? But yeah, so I would say two primary things that I want us to accomplish over the next 5 years. So one would just be continue to grow in the upstate market, and I would say look at that in two ways. One would be continuing to expand the offerings and services that we offer under the Limitless umbrella. I think there's tremendous value to having some distinction in some brands or some services, but that they're still symbiotic, where they essentially feed each other, right? Where a client might not need one thing that we offer right now, but they might need something else, and now all of a sudden we've brought them into our ecosystem. So the more that we can offer, that's up to our standard, right?
Yeah.
But the more that we can offer to essentially just expand our access to the ecosystem of the upstate, I think is going to continue to help us grow. But I think the other piece is we want to distinguish ourselves within kind of the smaller private practice world of really continuing to be kind of like a hub of professional excellence in education. So if you look, most of the places where people can go to get like higher level apprenticeship, mentorship, residency, fellowship, anything like that, they're all big hospital systems.
Yep.
So this year we're actually starting our first residency program within the women's health side of things. I would love for us to add 2 to 3 more specialty residency programs that are housed under us. That way, kind of the next generation of therapists that are coming up, well, it serves a number of purposes for us. One, it definitely helps the next generation of therapists coming up where they learn that big box healthcare is not the only way to get the job done, and that they can start to see a future and a vision for what we want healthcare to look like. We want to be able to share that vision with them and show them that it is realistic and practical. But then the second piece is that it will allow us to farm our own talent a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
To be able to bring some young, raw, talented therapists in and not have to do 6 to 12 months of unlearning of everything that they were doing in the big box system. Instead, we can bring them in and say, hey, we're going to build you from the ground up in our way, and now you've got 6 to 12 months of mentorship under the people that have been doing this. And that way, there's not untying all these knots. We're getting to build those connections from the jump. And then we just get the opportunity to say, is this somebody that we want to continue to invest in going forward? Is this somebody who can help us launch a new location or launch a new line of service? We will have gotten to farm that talent over the course of those 6 to 12 months. So I'd say over the course of 5 years, those would be our main two things is, continued growth and expansion, primarily in the upstate market in terms of the services that we already offer, while continuing to expand some of those symbiotic services, but then really growing our presence in terms of professional excellence and clinical education to go, hey, you don't have to go to Prisma or to Bon Secours or to one of these big box healthcare setups or practices. You can actually get that still in the small private practice setup. Yeah.
And it's all up front. You know what you're paying up front.
Correct.
You know all your questions are answered up front. There's no dealing with, I'm sure you still handle some insurance situations, but like there's no dealing with the insurance. You don't have to do all that. You guys handle all of it in-house. You're so client focused that you make it as easy as you possibly can for the client. You actually probably take on more crap that you don't need to make it easier for the client, which is super cool.
100%, yeah. We would love to fall on a grenade for a client to make sure they don't have to deal with some of that. And just to answer your question, you're right. We do still deal with insurance companies. We just don't, the insurance companies don't get a say-so in what kind of care our clients receive, right?
Yeah.
So people can still get insurance benefits and coverage for our services. It just doesn't look like, hey, you know what, before I can schedule you for an appointment, the first thing I'm gonna need is your insurance card. It's like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Who are we taking care of here?
Yeah.
Like, let's care for you first, and then we can help tackle all those logistics on the back end.
Yeah. So like, what personally would you like to see yourself do in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think really, I guess technically my title, if I had to give myself one right now, is owner, founder, CEO, but I really want to move more into that CEO role over the next 5 years. I still, our practice has grown, but I'm still at the point where the minute that one thing happens, whether it's, a therapist goes out on maternity leave or paternity leave, or is on vacation or out sick, or, one of our software systems is down or whatever, I'm still the first person that has to jump in and solve those problems. And so again, if we continue growing on the trajectory that we are, I think I can get there. But I would say for me, professionally, that's really the main goal. Is to say, I'm not trying to exit my business in the next 5 years because I think there's just so much more untapped potential. This market is continuing to grow.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the idea of competition earlier, like Prisma or Bond Scores is not my competition because they're not doing what we do.
Yeah.
And so we still have a lot of opportunity to be able to serve people under the umbrella that we have right now. And so, yeah, I would just say my main goal is to actually move into that CEO role so that I can actually position this as more of a business and not just a job that I also happen to own.
Yeah, you want to be more of the vision. You want to handle the culture. You want to handle the big relationships within your business. You want to be able to handle all of those things.
Yep.
And the day-to-day, like the do work piece,
Yes.
you have people on your team that can handle that you can trust, that honestly could probably do those things better than you can.
100%.
At this point. And you go out and you find just really kick-ass talent that's going to be able to execute for you on a high
Correct.
level. You're already seeing around the corner because you're saying, like, I want to create this ecosystem where I can create talent.
Yep.
But in a weird way, that's going to automatically feed the other, personal goal that you're wanting to do, which is you're going to create talent and you're going to be able to give them responsibility at a career infancy where you can say, like, hey, I'm going to create a really good physical therapist out of you, and I'm going to give you the opportunity that you want, which is the hours that you need and the schooling that you need.
Right.
But also, as a part of that, side by side, I'm also going to teach you how to be a really good marketer.
Right.
Or I'm going to teach you how to be a really good integrator in my business that can hold people accountable. And you're going to do that based on the skill sets that God gave them and say, like, okay, you're really good at this, but you're also really good at this. How do I find a way in my organization to do that? And then you have the opportunity to pick and place who you want when you want. So it's cool.
Just because somebody is, let's say, a physical therapist, doesn't mean that their roles, responsibilities, title, schedule, all that kind of stuff need to look the same. I was having that conversation with my client experience manager the other day, and she was like, hey, the next therapist that we hire on this side of the business, like, again, not trying to brag or be arrogant, but it's like we feel so good on the clinical excellence side of this. The next person we hire just needs to be the social butterfly, right? Just needs to be the person that, like, it doesn't matter if they're the one that's the best one at solving a patient's problem. They just need to be the one that loves getting out in the community and talking to people, because these other people on this side of the business, they're really great on the clinical excellence side, but like after they've done one or two like community marketing and everything, you can see like their energy just starts to go.
Yep.
You're like, okay, you're right. You know what? So I can get that person that they don't have to be the ace in the hole therapist that goes wham, bam, blam on the table and this person's going to walk out feeling like $1 million. I just need that person that just loves being around people. Okay. And that way I don't have to try to, like you said, I don't have to try to mold my people that are clinically excellent and say, hey, I know you're really good at that, but we're going to pause on that. And I really want you to focus on this other thing instead. It's like, hold on a second. Like, let's remember why we brought them on the team to begin with.
We need to go and hire this personality that we really need in our business that has this skill set, and I'll just teach him the regulatory piece of it and how we do that. That's really cool.
That's the whole, like, you can train the hard skills, but it's hard to train the soft skills, right? Yeah. So you can train somebody to be technically proficient, but how do you find the person that has that magnetic personality or whatever it may be? Exactly.
Yeah. In our world, when we're coaching businesses, we call that acing the seat. So basically, like, does this person have the aptitude to do this? Right. That is like literally the God-given ability to just do it. You don't have to teach it. It's not, oftentimes the aptitude to do something is not something that you can teach somebody to do. It's just a skill set that they were given from birth that they're just really good at, like that raw talent piece. And then, the rest of the acronym, capacity, and then enthusiasm, capacity, like they have the time and the ability. You said, I want to be a CEO. Right now, you don't have the capacity to do anything outside of what you're doing currently. Right. But, and then enthusiasm is like, do they actually want to do it? And are they excited about it? And it doesn't make them spring out of bed. But the aptitude piece of that is oftentimes missing, especially when you go out, like in your industry, you're hiring people that oftentimes went to school for a long time. The school system has taught them a specific way to think about the industry and all of that stuff. And then they come in and almost like they're just like faceless, and then you have to like re-inject the personality and make them the person that they were before they went in and learned, 7 years of school or whatever it looks like. So.
Right. It's teaching people to like just strategically problem solve again, to not say, hey, there's this really small box and you got to color inside the lines at all times, right? It's like, I just get to look at them and go, if you think that's what's best for this person, then you get to do that. Yeah. You don't have to ask my permission. You don't have to ask an insurance company's permission. You don't have to ask a hospital system's permission. You just, please do that. If that's in that person's best interest, then do it. And I'm like, oh, That is kind of like a light bulb moment of like, I just got so used to being told no.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You're not going to hear that very often here, unless it's obviously, ethical and all that kind of things considered. But yeah, if it's what's best for this person, just go.
Yeah.
I hired you for a reason.
Yeah.
So.
Good. So you've expanded locations, and I know I've had 4 people on here that have expanded multiple locations, and every single one of them has been like, dude, the first one was an absolute disaster, and then the second one got a little better, and then the next one got a little better. So what was opening another location like for you? Did it drain your capacity to do things at the current location, or did you already have like a documented and a good strategy and plan to go out and do that?
That's a great question. So I am grateful that, I will say number one is that I'm grateful that I had hired on and brought on administrative support before I tried to branch out into multiple locations.
Okay.
I think the main thing was that I kind of took the lead as far as saying, hey, I'm making this next new thing happen. I need you to pretty much handle all the other day-to-day stuff while I'm doing this, right? While I'm out looking at properties, while I'm talking to contractors or meeting with insurance agents or whatever it may be. Like, I can't be responding to emails, answering the phone, dealing with client concerns and questions. I need you to do all of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that I had and still have excellent administrative support on that. I will tell you though, learned a lot. The first one is, I will say, this is so our most recent location. We kind of opened 2 in the last year, but around the same time frame. But the one that we kind of call our hub or our mothership here in Greenville, that was the first one that we've had that was, like I said, completely ours, where it was a build out. It was like, hey, here's this blank shell of a warehouse, turn it into something. All the others were, hey, here's some office space you can come rent. And so the process is basically kind of take it or leave it. Obviously there's, the HR side of things and stuff like that you got to figure out, but this was the first one that was really like, you got to figure it all out. Like, how many people can we fit in here, and how are we going to use the space, and what's our budget, and what's our time frame for getting stuff done, and how do we manage this project on top of managing people. And so that one, lots of lessons learned. We can say that. And then I'll be totally honest and say our third location, the one that we opened in Spartanburg this year, I have been fairly hands-off with that one. So my admin, who also kind of serves as, I also gave her the title of COO of the pelvic health side of the business, in that location that we only do pelvic health at that location right now, I let her kind of say, this is your first baby. Like, take it and run with it. Like, here's our budget, here's where we can be, here's our time frame, go. And she's the one that networked in that community and found opportunities and said, hey, here's somebody who's got some space for us to offer us, and here's what we need to do, and here's our budget for paint and furniture. And like, she handled all that. And it's gone well so far. But all that to say, I will say, yes, the first one was certainly the hardest. And I'd say even now, there's that constant, if there's not one person that's over each individual location, if I am one person that is trying to kind of be the person, the overseer, the person that's driving multiple ships at the same time, that is a challenge for sure. We're still, and I will just can be transparent and vulnerable and say, we're still at a point, like company-wise, where like we don't have the capital or the overhead available to say, hey, I can just hire a manager of each of these locations. You know what I'm saying? You talked about my goal for the next couple of years, like that's why I say I want to move into a CEO role. That will involve delegating and employing more people to help with the management of each of those locations, because right now it is every day, all locations, all the time, figuring it out.
Yeah, it is hard. And ultimately, like these are the things that every business that I coach struggle with is scalability. Like, how do we open locations, open new product lines, all of those things? When's the right time? And like, there's always this point where the CEO, the owner, the founder, whatever their president, whatever their title is, they're sitting in multiple seats. And what I always tell people with me is, you're buying time with me.
Correct.
You're not buying any knowledge that you don't know. All you're buying is time, because what we're going to do is we're going to take what you need to do in a year and we're going to shrink that down to like a 3-month period. And we're going to get stuff done. Like, I'm careful, YouTube has an algorithm, so we're going to get stuff done. I would not tell you that off of camera. I would tell you another thing, but
that's all right.
Ultimately, like, we're going to get those things done, we're going to get them done quick. But that's what most businesses struggle with, is the scalability. Like, how do I take this really cool skill, product, whatever it is, and how do I scale it across multiple locations? Because what it's actually doing, and what a lot of people don't wrap their head around, is they say, if I open another location, I actually become more efficient. That's actually the opposite of what happens. When you open another location, you have more people doing the work that you're paying more people to do, but you're actually doing the same amount of work for a small period of time.
Correct.
The problem that most businesses run into is that small period of time where you're inefficient gets drug out over multiple years because they're not having somebody push the boat forward, and they're trying to just manhandle it and do it all themselves. Well, that's really great, but what that's doing is that's elongating your time to be inefficient. If we can shorten, and what I always tell people is like, what I do is I shorten your ceilings and I shorten your abilities to be efficient. I make sure that the time that we're inefficient when we have to scale is very brief, and we can just fly through things really quick. But that's the hardest part, man. Like scaling a business, products, services, whatever it is, that is always by far the most inefficient that a business is going to be. Then when we push through that, then we have a new ceiling that makes us inefficient, and then a new one, and a new one, and a new one, and it never ends. But to a point, if you can, the goal is if you can just limit the time that you're hitting those ceilings, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, and I think, you nailed that. I'd say the other thing that came to mind when you said that too is just this idea of, as you scale, you're slowly letting more and more go of control of what happens, right? So obviously there's different parts of that, of hiring good people and having the systems and processes in place, whatever. But then at the end of the day, like, you have to trust those systems and those processes and those people to just do it. And be okay that, you know what, if Jordan was in every single role in the company, in my mind, it might get done 5 or 10% better. But if Jordan's in all those roles, it doesn't get done at all. You know what I'm saying? So you have to relinquish this tiny bit of control to know, hey, in order for this to go, in order for this to grow beyond where it is right now, I got to let go of that, right? And that's not saying settle for mediocre. That's not what we're saying at all. But we are saying, like, you can't have your fist tightly grasped on every lever of the business at all times, right?
It's trust, but verify.
Correct.
Verify quality on the back end, and then once you've created the culture of quality with that person, that's when the ultimate blind trust comes in, where you can say, hey, this is now Katie's thing. Katie, you just run. Like, you got this. I trust you. I don't need to know. I just need to see the result. Great. All right, so we're getting pretty close back to your office, so I want to give you, obviously, the opportunity to, where can we find you? What's your interaction in the community? All of those things. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, so in terms of business, our brands, again, Limitless Therapy and Wellness is the original brand, and that kind of covers like our sports and orthopedic physical therapy side of things. There's all the socials out there under that tag of Limitless Therapy and Wellness. Then we have Limitless Pelvic Health, which again is our kind of primarily women's health, although we do see some men, but pelvic health concerns, we have accounts for that one. And then Limitless Fit is our fitness brand. Again, those 3 locations, one off Woodruff Road here, one downtown Greenville, and then one in Spartanburg. And then if you're looking to find me personally, I'm mostly at our Woodruff Road location office. Our family, we live in Travelers Rest. We attend Grace Church there in Travelers Rest, so we're there a lot. And then if we're not there, we're probably at the park or the library or doing something with the fam. And yeah, we're, in terms of community involvement and things like that too, networking is a big part of what has grown our business. So obviously that's how we met. I've been a part of multiple networking organizations and continue to be through Liberty Networking and BNI and some other smaller things. And then we actually host a networking function at our fitness center, our location here off Woodruff Road, called Netflex. So it's like Netflix, but with the flex. So it's networking and working out. So that's another great way to find me as we do those events on the weekends. So yeah, would love to interact with folks. I don't care if you need what we do. I just love knowing more people in the upstate. It was funny, I was having a conversation with my assistant the other day, and she was just talking about, she's like, what percentage of our growth would you say has just come from people just know who Jordan is? I'm like, I don't know how to put a number on that, but it is impactful. And again, I would never want that to be like some trophy I carry around or anything like that. But it's like, at the end of the day, it just helps to be known. That's the first level of building trust, right? Is that they can't trust you before they know you. And so, I'm sure there's people that know me and don't like me, and that's okay. But I still like my chances of being able to win people over. And the other thing is that I just think community-wise, it's great for me to be able to know more people, to be a resource to my family, my employees, our clients, and things like that, because it's so funny, the things that people will ask us for that have absolutely nothing to do with a physical therapist or a doctor or a trainer or anything like that. It's, hey, I'm getting my house painted, you know, like, have you ever gotten your house painted by anybody? Or, hey, I need somebody to mow my yard, or it's just like all these things come up, and so the more people I know in the community, the better.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, you know, a shameless plug for you, like, you've always been super approachable. I mean, I shot you basically a cold email. We met for 5 minutes at a networking event. I shot you an email, and you've always been, like, super responsive, super open. I mean, even doing this, like, you were like, yeah, man, like, let's do this. I'm all in on it. So yeah, Jordan's great. I'm super proud of what you guys have built. I think it's awesome. I love businesses that take their traditional business that's been out there for, you know, 100 years and put a new spin on it, a spin for the customer, for the client. And honestly, like, purpose-driven businesses and purpose-driven people just get my clock wound up. Like, I just love talking to people like that, because there is something different about you. I mean, you know, you said you go to Grace Church, like, obviously you're a believer, but there is something about being in a business and believing that the blessing is going to be given to your business if you just do the right thing and you take care of people. And I do feel like that's just a dying art with businesses, especially in your space, in the realtor space, in all of these spaces. And you have found a way to make a successful business, continue to take care of customers and clients, and do it in a new, unique way that really gets people, like, you're really, like, redefining your industry. And I love that. I think that that's super cool. That might be a cool purpose tagline for you someday, is redefining your industry. But ultimately, like, that's what you're doing, and I just think it's cool. And, like, those are the people that I want to be around. Those are people I want to talk to. And I actually think that that's probably, people feel that from you, and that's why you are approachable, and that's why people joke in your office, like, how many people has Jordan's personality brought in the door? Well, it's not your personality, it's your belief, and it's your ability to connect with people, and it's the fact that you're really taking care of the people that matter the most. So that's super cool, man.
And you know, you mentioned I respond to cold messages or whatever. It's just because I respect the hustle, because I've been there.
Yeah.
I literally remember the week that I put in my notice and I'm starting my own thing. I had one client on the schedule, and it's like, okay, like, not kill or be killed, sink or swim, right? Like, you gotta go do it, right? And so I respect the hustle. Anytime somebody wants to reach out, I'm like, hey, man, I'll never turn down an opportunity to meet with somebody, because I was that same person who I was talking to the random people in the Starbucks line behind me, just like, whoever wants to listen, you know. So yeah, I will always respect the hustle.
That's fun. Well, we're back at the office. Is there anything else that you can think of that you want to get out to your audience, or anything like that?
No, just a thank you to Ren for setting this up. Like I said, I love the opportunity to have conversations. We're actually building a content studio space upstairs that I didn't get to show you, but I'll return the favor for you sometime. Make sure
absolutely.
I have you come record some content with us there as well. And yeah, just encourage folks to continue to follow along on his journey. I got to watch a couple clips of some of the ones that you've done so far. They've been great. I'm sure you got some other great people lined up. So yeah, looking forward to following along.
We have 5 people scheduled in the next 4 weeks to shoot. Obviously, right now the bottleneck is my ability to edit and post the content and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, it's really cool. It's taken off. I mean, the Greenville community, I talk about it in every video. Everybody here is so open to opportunity. Everybody here is so open to, like, just taking a step out of their lane and interacting with people. And it's really afforded me the opportunity to go out and do this all the time. So it's really cool. So
cool, man.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, we made it back in one piece. Jordan, what a great interview. It was so much fun hanging out with him for the last hour. I will link all of his social media and their website down below. If you want to interact with him, or if you want to learn more about what he does, please feel free to click those links below, or even just walk in and go visit him. They're awesome. Also, my goal here is to make sure that I'm bringing business owners of the upstate together. We're sharing tips and tricks. We're trying to grow the upstate of South Carolina. I love this place. This place is so great, and I just want every business owner here to thrive as much as possible. So that's my goal here. If you have people that you think would be a great fit for what I do, from coaching or even just for the channel, please comment those people below. I would love to interact with them and get to know them for an hour or so. But also, I will link my information below. Love to get to know you and your business a little bit better and understand if there's any way that I can possibly help. Please comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all of those things. Any support is appreciated. I am totally doing this out of the goodness of my heart to try to meet people. and get to know the upstate and give back to the community here. So please help the channel as much as you possibly can. And I appreciate every single one of you that have been watching. It's been awesome. I'm very surprised by the amount of following that I've gotten so far, but I appreciate it. So guys, please stay tuned for the next one. I got a few of them lined up, and the editing is the bottleneck right now, but I promise you I will deliver. They will be things that you want to watch. They are going to be people that you want to meet and people that you want to interact with. So please stay tuned for the next one, and I'll see you next time.